Hello and welcome in today's exciting episode. I take this jacket that I've made out of this beautiful Chanel tweed and I embellish it with lots of different beads. It's perfect. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Perfect jacket. So here's the golden Chanel tweed jacket. It does not photograph well, I have to say. I think this is just a photograph that's been tweaked a little. I think it's the beige cotton. It looks sort of white in photographs and film. But anyway, point is I love it. So these are the beads that I picked out and I've sort of mixed them all together. And they will be the ones that I start embellishing this jacket with. It's just sort of a mix of everything. It's sort of, expensive mix. Because, I really love this tweed. And here we go. It looks like a big old mess, but I have faith, so I'm just going to keep going and, do some more. So here we go. Now that I've done like the front of one side and a little bit of the arm, okay, it's nighttime now. It doesn't look that impressive, but I really like how it looks at night. I'll photograph it again in the morning, but yeah, it's looking beautiful. Here it is. Normally I call my jacket she's, but this one looks like an old grandfather in my opinion. When I lived in Edinburgh, there was this secondhand or vintage store, but it was more like this massive barn. It's still there. There's 1 or 2 videos of it on YouTube. People sort of discover it and film it, but yeah, most people in Edinburgh just sort of agree to keep it a secret, so there's not that much about it online. But yeah, that's what this this jacket here reminds me of. The old grandfatherly vintage jackets that that they sell in that store. Anyway, I shall add more beads. Oh, I love this bead here that looks like a kiwi fruit. It's sort of brown on the outside and green on the center. So beautiful. So I've done a lot more work. Almost all of the back is done. And it's it's getting pretty heavy, but it's also absolutely gorgeous. I love those polished stone ovals and the wood look sort of round ones. It's just such a beautiful mix, and it's very autumny. Still got this front section to go, so I'll do that. But these are some photos just from Pinterest of Edinburgh when it's sort of at because if you haven't been or you haven't heard, then August, it's just like a full-on party month, and it's full of international visitors and performers because there's all these festivals on during the entire month of August. So September, it's sort of like the town is exhausted, and then it sort of just rains and it cleans everything out, and all the moss in all these, these houses and buildings are hundreds of years old. So it's just sort of greys and browns with these little bits of moss, and it's just completely lovely town. And so that's why this jacket reminds me of it. So I've done more beading. I messed around with the lighting trying to get a good shot, but again, I think I'll have to just wait until the daylight hours. Normally with some jackets it doesn't really matter that much, but if you use glass beads, the colour of them changes so much when it's natural light compared to artificial light. It's kind of amazing. I also found some photos of Edinburgh during festival month. So like when the military tattoo is on and all the street performers are out and all the, ancient buildings are covered in posters for different shows, and every few feet there's a different street performer trying to advertise for their show. It's so unbelievably chaotic. Anyway, so here's the jacket. You can sort of see there's big areas under the sleeves that still need to be done. And there's a little bit under the sort of the side there as well. And the back of the other arm all needs to be done. So Still quite a bit to go, but yeah, I really, really love this. It's such a good mix. I loved this tweed for so long, and I was really worried about not getting it right. But yeah, I'm loving this. Okay, I finally finished the beading to the point where I can now set this aside and I will do the lining. The lining is this gorgeous Italian silk it sort of looks like wood. But I also found these really, really old photos of before I'd actually made this jacket up. I made some sample sort of test beaded trim to see what it would look like. Ultimately, I didn't go with it because I don't know, it just sort of seemed to wash out the tweed. So yeah, I'm really glad with the way it's turned out now. It was also nice to see those old photos. Okay, so I am going to do the lining now, sew that all together. Oh my gosh, I love this silk so much. I know I've said that already, but it's just so beautiful to work with. I'm always really tempted to buy something that's, less expensive, but it's just so nice to work with and so nice to wear. So you lay the jacket out, the outer jacket, and then you tuck the sleeves in, fold the sleeves in, and then you put the lining over and pin it to both sides. So I've pinned it to one side here, and then I sort of stretched across and pin it to the other side. Once that was done, I machine sewed them together, and just checking that everything's fine. And then I just have to stitch the tops together so that the lining of the shoulders is completely together. And then, I just sort of trimmed them down and made them neat. Next thing was to just stitch the lining, so stitch the hem allowance down. And then now it is time to do the collar. So I just have to sort of turn everything inside out so I can machine sew the collar. So I have to pin the right sides together, and I've just sort of pinned all around the neckline. And now once that's done, you sort of just adjust the pins so that all the layers are perfectly aligned. And then the next step is to sew everything together with the machine. Then you sort of turn it in the correct way and just check that you've done everything correctly. Then turn it back inside out, and reinforce it, so stitched around again with the machine, and then cut the seam allowance down by half so that when you turn it out, finally it will sit properly. And then you just clip the curves again so that it sits correctly once it's all turned in. And then it's time to sort of turn it in, and there we go. And I've also pinned around the edges where I'm going to top stitch. So the next thing is to top stitch, and I always do this by hand, just because you're not really supposed to have any visible machine stitches. Plus I just think it looks nicer. So now I'm just going along and filling in all the beads, and oh my goodness, this takes forever. So I've just stopped to scrounge around and find some more of those big sort of polished stone beads, and then I will get back to it. I went and hunted and gathered and had mixed success. There weren't that many of the stone ones. I'm sure I put some aside, but I think what I did was I just, when I couldn't find another stone one, I just sort of used up the ones I'd stashed aside. I did find these ones. They're sort of a earthy reddish and black. But, they're beautiful, but I think I'll save them for a different thing. It would be a little jarring to have around the collar, around the neckline, just some that are completely different and not used anywhere else. I did find these two hearts that are the same colour as sort of that greeny sort of moss colour on the silk and the tweed. I also found some dinosaurs and some soldiers and some sort of beige beads, but I'll save those for something else. So this is my smorgasbord to choose from. So I'll just finish that neckline now with all these ones that I just found. It always seems to take forever to do that last little bit of beading, but it is done, and I do have a few beads left, but yeah, really not many. And so the next step is to pin down the silk lining, and once that's pinned, I really should have used the special silk pins, not the regular pins. But once that was pinned down, then I went along and stitched it all down. And then the next thing is to do the cuffs. So thread the lining sleeve through the actual sleeve. And then, yeah, now it is all done. Oh, I love it so much. It's absolutely gorgeous. For the longest time, this is one of those tweeds when I bought it, the shop assistant was just sort of looking at me going, "You're paying how much for this? For this?" And yeah, I just love it. And I was like, I just know that, yeah, I can make something absolutely beautiful out of it. And I mean, it's absolutely, I know that it's just beautiful to me. I know it's not beautiful to anyone else, but it reminds me so much of Edinburgh in September after, you know, those first rains after the exhaustion of the festival month and summer. And yeah, I just love everything about this. It's just so old looking, and yeah, it's just beautiful. So it is a little bit on the heavy side. Like I did use probably too many solid glass beads, but you know, they're the really beautiful ones. And I did put quite a few plastic ones in there. And oh, I love these round ones that sort of look like they're made out of wood. They're a sort of really heavy ceramic one. And oh, I also really, really love those kiwi fruit ones. There's only like 9 or 10. The really expensive handmade beads you can buy on a little string of, well, if they're large ones, you only get like 3. But yeah, if they're sort of small to medium ones, you usually get 9 or 10 on a string, and you can just buy, like, it's kind of like beads. You just buy enough to use on one thing. And yeah, I'm so glad I saved them all these years. This is a perfect thing to put them on. So yeah, I suppose I should stop taking footage and just post this. But yeah, I have just got so much footage, like going through and editing everything on. This is, yeah, that Italian digital silk lining. It is just spectacular, and it's so buttery soft. It's just beautiful to wear, beautiful to look at. But yeah, I've got a ridiculous amount of footage, so that's why there's all these lingering shots of this jacket, because yes, quite clearly I'm very happy with the way that it turned out. So thank you for watching, and yeah, I hope you're inspired to make your own jackets.